2015, I did a thing. I did something that scared me, something that excited me, something that was unknown to me. In 2015, I published a book. That book was called Wrapped in Skin. And from that day, it has changed my life consistently. Almost daily, it has affected me. And my hope is that everyone who's picked the book up from that time has had some impact, been impacted in some way by the words on those pages. This is an opportunity for us to unpack those concepts, to really dive deep. You'll get a front row seat to hear me talk to people about what it is to live a life of purpose. What is existence? What is life itself? Why are we here? You'll get to ask your questions, have comments heard and talked about on the show. And maybe at some point, some of you will have an opportunity to come on and talk about your own personal experience and your own life's journey. My name is Justin Jamar Grooms, and I want to welcome you to Wrapped, the podcast. How was that relationship? Did it work out? Did you maintain it? What kind of came with that relationship?
No, we just got together to get her here.
Okay.
His 23 chromosomes, my 23 chromosomes. That was the only purpose. But I have a great relationship with him.
Good.
Because why not? So I broke up with him after I found out I was pregnant. And that was it. I've never been with him since then. We got together to get my daughter. That's a whole other Justin thing.
That's what I do. I'm trying to pull it out of you. So there was no relationship after your daughter was born. Is he currently involved in your daughter's life?
Like right now?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
like right now.
Yes. Yeah. So after I broke up with him while I was pregnant, then we just stayed friends, and my mother is the one, because I'm just gonna tell you, this is just an exclusive.
Thank you.
This is a mess, but I know this is a no judgment zone. So I was gonna tell my daughter that her dad died in a war honorably.
Oh, wow!
Because it was just it was just a lot. So I was like, okay, I know what to do. My mom was like, no, ma'am, you are not doing. My mom was like, no, you're not going to do that, because when your daughter gets older, she's going to have questions. She's going to find out he's still alive. And, so my mom was like, that's his daughter, just like it's yours. So every summer, my daughter spent the summers with her dad and his mom. So I'm so grateful for my parents. You know what I mean? Because I was too young to.
Well, that's another reason that support system is extremely important. And you said this earlier. You went to college with kids who overwhelmingly, the majority of them didn't have both parents, didn't have a stable household, didn't have someone who could instill wisdom. Maybe they did. Maybe they had a single parent who was instilling wisdom in them, but they didn't have that stability. And so if I'm speaking from my own perspective, my mom operated a lot of time out of fear and lack. So her decision-making process was probably also out of fear and lack. Yeah. And when you have parents who aren't operating in that space, they give you sustainable wisdom. They give you things that will sustain you long term and not just in the moment. It would have been easy for your mother to say, do what you need to do because it's your life. But she gave you wisdom that sustains you long term, not only for you, but for the future of your daughter and her relationship with her father.
Yes. Yeah. I'm so
That's
grateful
so amazing.
For that. I know, because I was like, I'll just tell her this.
Yeah. Has that experience with your babies, with the father of your child? I hate saying baby's daddy. I try to say baby's father, but with the father of your child, did that experience jade you at all in the next relationships, or did it impact your relationships moving forward in any way?
No, it definitely did not jade me.
Okay.
But later on in life, and this is what I teach now, we weren't taught how to break up, and we weren't taught how to heal after a breakup. So
Mm.
I did not know that I experienced trauma in that relationship, because you got to remember, like, that was the first person I ever had sex with. I got pregnant. I caught him cheating on me. I didn't realize all that was trauma
Oh wow! And
until
this was
until
you caught him cheating during your pregnancy?
okay, so I caught him cheating. I don't think I was pregnant. I don't remember that part, Justin. I don't
Okay.
remember if I was pregnant when I caught him cheating, or was it before. It might have been before. All I know is I caught him cheating. And I had never experienced that with a guy before. I had boyfriends
Mm.
before him, but I didn't have, there was no sex. It was just guys that I really liked in high school. But
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
so I wasn't jaded, but I didn't know that that was trauma and that I needed to heal from that until
Mm.
later.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah. But
And
no,
so
nothing jaded me.
and so you didn't have, because I think again that's I believe I don't know that we're ever healed
Hmm.
completely as much as we are healing. It depends on how deep the wound is, obviously, but I
Hmm.
think the danger is when people get to a place of where they think they're healed and they stop working on their healing. I don't
Hmm.
know that there's any such thing as too healed, but there is
Okay.
a such thing as not healed enough. And
Okay.
so I would err on the side of caution and try to become quote unquote too healed
Yeah.
versus stopping somewhere in the middle and assuming that I'm healed. Are you still working on that part of yourself as far as trusting men, and is it has it been difficult to kind of see the best in men sometimes? Maybe
Oh
not
God,
now,
not
but
at
early
all.
on. Okay,
Mm-mm.
tell me about that.
No.
Because
Okay.
I think most women who go through a situation like that, they trust someone, they have a
Yes.
situation with someone, and you even talked about asking him for money for the abortion. He was like, I ain't got it, and so like
Right.
all that stuff kind of could give you this distrust of men,
Right.
right? Specifically, if the first person you've been with. How
Right.
did you avoid that distrust? I mean,
Right. So here's the thing. Again, remember I said I experienced trauma, but I didn't know that was trauma, and I didn't know to heal. And I do womb cleansing with women, which is a part of why, because we're not taught how to heal. We don't have a routine
hmm
after a breakup. We just go from one person to the next person to the next person. So yes, I moved on, um, and dated other people, of course, and had but it didn't stop me from, like, believing in love, or
yeah,
it didn't make me think all men were dogs. And I don't know, I just didn't buy into that. And I think, well, I do know. And I talk about that with the Reclaiming Your Kingdom, with what I do for the men, and why I know God chose me to do that is because I'm not jaded when it comes to men. I don't see men as dogs. I see the God in men, just like I see
mm,
the God in women. That goes back to, again, me having a pastor's heart and the things that I've learned, and why I have been created. So a part of
yeah,
my purpose and my wiring is to see people how God sees them, because that's the only way I can be effective in my calling, right? So, and he isn't the only man that I've gone through things with, you know what I mean? But I just chose I my faith in God is bigger than my faith in man. So I've
mm,
always been the type of woman that's like, no matter what the world is experiencing with men and women or whatever, if there's one dynamic, extraordinary man left, he's mine when it's time.
oh,
Does
I
that make
like
sense?
that.
So
Yeah,
I don't care if 1 billion, if it's 100 million men on the planet and all of them are trash except one, I believe that one is mine. Period. So I don't move in fear or what the masses is. I don't care about that. I don't care how many times I met somebody there that has nothing to do with the one. Because they're not
Yeah,
even my person. So
that's
why am
right.
I gonna let somebody that's not my person keep me from my person? To me, that's
Mm,
ridiculous.
mm.
I don't understand. I'm not
Yeah,
doing. Why would I?
it's. I think it's hard sometimes to see the divinity in people, though. I say this that how can a divine creator
Mm-hmm,
create something that is not in itself divine? So
mm-hmm.
everyone has a piece of the divinity within them. It's
Yes,
just,
you
do
do.
you cultivate that divinity within you, or do you let it lay dormant within you? But there's not a person on this planet who does not have a piece of the divine within
Yes,
them. It's just,
yes,
do they see it, and then have they cultivated enough where the world can see it? Unless they come across someone like you who can see it, even if it's small. But most of us haven't gotten to
right.
that place where we can see it in people, even if it's small.
Yeah.
So talk about this project you're doing with men called Reclaiming Your Kingdom, because I think, look, we talk about this all the time, and I obviously have conversations with women often.
Yeah.
But on the first season of the podcast, someone asked me, why don't men have more of these conversations? And I
Mm-hmm.
said, I think men do have these conversations, but it's not anything that you're going to necessarily publicize. It's not. I mean,
Okay.
there are people. The stuff that I put up, people are like, man, I ain't listening to that. I'm not rocking with that. And so I think men have these conversations, but there are not a lot of men who are putting it up on their Insta or their whatever,
Right.
because they're not really making money that way. They're not really getting likes that way. It's comedy, it's music, it's whatever it is. Um, but men don't have enough of these conversations
Yeah.
with themselves, but also with women. And I think it's important that we as men and women have conversations with one another so we can get different perspectives or get both perspectives. So
Yeah.
what is it? What is Reclaiming Your Kingdom? When did you start it, and what motivated you to start it?
Okay. So Reclaiming Your Kingdom is an event that I do just for men. It's I'm the only woman there, and I create a safe space for men to talk and to feel seen and to feel heard and to be transparent in a way that society has taught them that they should not be. So they get to
Mm,
come to this event and it's just an open forum, right? And they can talk about whatever they want to talk about and they feel safe doing so in my presence in the presence of these other men. So
wow.
yeah, and it's really beautiful. And you said okay, I started
And you've been
doing
doing what? So yeah, you've been doing it for how long?
okay. So I started doing it I believe in 2021.
Okay.
And so in 2018, and I told you this, but your podcast doesn't know this. So in 2018, I went to an event. This lady named Cheryl prophesied to me. She said, Jael, all this other stuff. But then at the end, she was like, Jael, you have a strong ministry for men. She said, you have a strong anointing in your life for men. She said, you are going to help men basically like take their rightful place back in the kingdom. You are going to
Mm,
help men grow closer to God. And basically, from mine is reclaim their kingdom, right? So when she said that to me in 2018, I'm like, okay, girl, please. I work with women. I am not a man. Um, but it stuck with me. So again, I'm very obedient, extremely. So I created an audiobook of affirmations for everybody, but probably I was really focused on women. So I created this book.
I did that too. I did that too, right?
I didn't know
Well, yeah. Never mind. That's crazy. All right, keep
that.
talking.
So I created it's called The Great Audiobook of Affirmations for
Okay.
women or for whomever. I shot a commercial for it. Long story short, the computer where I recorded the book crashed. So I lost the book and had to re-record it. And I'll say maybe a year later. Again, I'm not that great with time. So after the book crashed, maybe like a year later, God was like, Jael, it's time for you to do your book again. So I was like,
Mm,
okay. So I'm in the studio recording the great audiobook of affirmations. I finished recording that version. Both versions are on my website. As soon as I finish
Yeah,
recording, have the
we'll link all that, by the way.
perfect. So as soon
Yeah.
as I'm like taking the headphones off again, because God speaks to me, I listen. Maybe that's why God speaks to me because I listen. I don't know. But God was like, do one for men. And I was like, what? Huh? So God was like, do one for men. So Justin, I put the headphones back on and I started doing affirmations just for men. But the way that I did it was so my regular book of my regular book of affirmations, I think I say it like you repeat after me and I'll say like whatever, I am extraordinary. You say I am extraordinary. But for the men, I did it where I'm speaking to you all and then you speak it. So I will say, um, whatever, you are beautiful and magnificent, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
y'all, the men will say, I am beautiful and magnificent. And then I will say, you are powerful beyond measure. And then the men will say, I am powerful beyond measure. So I did, that's how God told me to do that one. So Justin,
Yeah.
okay, listen, I recorded the book. I did a book launch. It was dope, right? And the men love it. And then and then from there, God was like, now you got to do reclaiming your kingdom for the men. So I'm just obedient. That's the best way I know how to.
Yeah.
That's just, yeah.
Now, how has what was the response initially, and has it changed or grown since you? Because from a man's perspective, it's hard to open up to women. It's hard to open up to a woman that you're intimate with, let alone a stranger. Well, it may be actually easier to open up to a stranger than it is someone you're intimate with. But even then, it's hard to be vulnerable sometimes. So, how has the response been from men who have to, on occasion, show themselves to be vulnerable and be transparent to someone who, you know, let's be honest,
They don't know.
they may come to they don't know you, but they also may come to the event, be like, man, I'm going to this event. They see the flyer, they're like, yeah, I'm going to that event. I'll be there. But they may
Right.
come with a different motive.
They come one way, right? Then they leave a different
Yeah,
way.
yeah. So how's the response been?
It's beautiful. And then I want to go back to you when you said it's hard for men to open up to a woman they're intimate with because we
Yeah,
can't skip
yeah.
over that.
No, we can't. Let's talk about it. We'll go there, the response,
Let's
and
go
then we'll talk
right.
about.
We'll
Yeah,
circle back.
yeah.
So you got to remember, Justin, this is something I'm anointed to do, which is a game that like changes the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's
Mm-hmm.
not me, it's God. So I'm just a
That's right.
vessel. And
That's
and
right.
when the men come into the space, the reason that these men who have, and then let me tell you, Justin. So I life coach a lot of men as well. I have a lot of life coaching clients. My
Okay.
male life coaching clients, I'm the only woman that they've ever, a lot of them, not all of them, but I am the first woman that a lot of them have ever talked about parent hurt, heartbreak, divorce, sex, being molested, being raped. I hear it all. And they feel very safe and comfortable with me. And I can only credit God because this is what I'm anointed for. So they already know without me having to do, like, I feel safe. So men feel safe in my presence.
So they come to
Um,
have an encounter with Jael, and they have an encounter with God.
That's what it is. They may not realize that, but that's
Yeah.
what it is. So when they come to the space, and if, some of them are like, what are you doing? What is it? But well, the first thing they say is, "Oh my God, you're doing something for us." That's the
Mm-hmm.
first
That
response. The men
part.
are like, "I cannot
Yeah.
believe you, black woman, are holding space for black men." That's the first response I get. The second response I get is almost like they want to cry. They're like, "You care? You care about us?" I'm like, yeah, I love y'all for real. Like I'm for real. I love y'all for real. And they can tell. That's the second response. And then the third response is like when they come to the event, like you said, some of them may come like, um, but when I speak, because
You
I'm
know
very
how we do.
powerful,
You know how we do sometimes.
right? But I think when they because I'm so powerful and I'm so passionate about what I'm called to do, even if they are coming on something else, it shifts. And then
Mm.
it's like the reverence and respect, which I could that's a natural though. I don't move in a way where somebody would disrespect me. But it becomes a whole other level of respect for me and like admiration, even if it is still a little like, you know what I mean? So
You
just
said
the name,
something. You said
they love
something
it.
so powerful there that I don't want to skip over. You said,
Okay.
you didn't say it in this way, but what I took from it is that your your power doesn't come from your ability; it comes from your calling.
Yes. That's it.
That it is not that you're, although I'm sure you are, but it's not the fact that you're skilled, um, because there are a lot of talented, skillful people who don't connect. They don't have the
No.
ability to connect because they're not called. And there are a lot of
Yeah.
people. What's that? What is it that God doesn't call the qualified? He qualifies the called.
Yes.
And I
And
truly believe that. I'm an example of that. Um, that's amazing. And how often are you doing these events?
so I do them monthly. This will be the first one of this year, for
Okay,
February 25th. I don't know when this is going to air,
so
but
it's next
let me
week.
pull up.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so this is the first one of 2024, and I usually do them the end of every month
And how
on
do
a
they sign up
Saturday.
for this?
Hmm.
How do men sign up for this?
So you can go to my website, which I'm sure Justin will have. It's jaelthegreat.com. Or if you
Yep.
follow me on Instagram at Jael the Great, there's a link right in my bio that takes you right to the page. So either go to my website,
Okay.
or if you're on my Instagram, just click the link in my bio.
Okay. Um, how has this and then, well, because we can talk for forever, but I do want to get into relationships moving forward for you. You don't have to tell me whether or not you're single, but how has going through what you've gone through with the father of your daughter, the relationship you have with your own dad, what you're doing for men, obviously is give you have hope about men and relationships, but is there something that you can give to women who may not experience it or not may have similar experiences but didn't come out with the same perspective that you have, to give hope to the opposite sex and instill confidence in themselves that they can get to a place in a relationship that they ultimately want to get to? Are there maybe two or three things that you can leave us with, not just women but men as well?
Hmm. And then we got to go back to when you said men are intimate with a woman, but they're not
Oh no,
intimate
let's
with
do that
you.
before we address that because I do want to leave them with those nuggets. But let's talk about that intimacy. And let me
Yeah,
tell you
because
what
you
I mean by
said
that. Well,
yes.
let me tell you what I mean
Okay.
by that a little bit.
Okay.
When I was a kid, I used to be obsessed with Japanese culture. Right, most people know this. I went to Japan last year for the first time. I went to Tokyo, extremely obsessed with Tokyo. I'm going to make Japan an annual trip. I'm going to go to a different place every year in Japan.
Wow.
But I was always obsessed with like samurai culture. And one of the first things I learned about samurais was that, they do these long, like, basically war like excursions. So they'll go conquer other lands. And when they're in times of peace, they're really in peace. They're farmers. Most of them were farmers. And then when it came time to go to war, they would go to war. And so in the household, in the center of the house would be the armor. It's almost like a centerpiece because it is a life giving source for the family. And but
Okay.
it's in case. It's in a case enshrined. And then when they have to go to war, the wife gives the samurai a bath, shaves him, puts his armor on, cleans his armor, sends him off to war, not knowing if he's ever going to return.
I know.
So he's at war. It could be 6 months, it could be 6 years. And if he happens to make it back, he would go to his house, stand at the doorstep. His wife would greet him at the door,
Mhm.
remove his armor,
Oh,
clean it, put it back in its rightful place, and then take care of him, his wounds, feed him, whatever, right?
Mhm.
And it was the first time in however long that campaign was that he was able to be vulnerable with somebody. He was able to take his armor off and breathe, right? Imagine having that long campaign with your armor on and then coming home and having to sit in that armor with all the blood and the dirt and the grime and everything that's been accumulated over the course of you doing what your job was.
Mhm.
And you still have to come home and sit in it. And I feel like a lot of men do that. They go out, and I'm assuming, and I'm talking about men who are actually working and actually taking care of stuff. They
Okay.
go out, do their thing, and then they come home with the armor still on, and they sit in it, they sleep in it, they wake up in it because they feel that if they take it off, they may be attacked.
Mm.
And so that's what I mean when I know a lot of men who are not even able to be vulnerable in their own household for fear of being attacked or something being used against them later on. So
Mm.
that's what I meant by that.
Okay.
And so I'd
So
love to hear your response your response to it.
yeah. So what I'm hearing first, the first thing that I heard when you said he comes home to his wife,
Yeah.
you didn't say he came home to his
No,
girlfriend.
no, no. To his
You
wife.
didn't say
Yeah.
he came. Follow me though. You didn't say he came home to a
Sorry.
woman he's sleeping with. You didn't say he came home to a woman where he saw all the red flags and did ignore them. You didn't say he came home to a woman
Mm.
that God never gave him permission to be with. You
Wait,
said he
say
came
that again. A woman that he saw all the red flags and ignored
that
them.
he saw all the red flags and ignored. You didn't say he came home to
Okay.
a woman that why what are you doing, sir? You didn't say he came home to a woman that he met at the club that night trying to be
Right, right,
so
right, right.
first of all, you said he came home to his wife.
That's right.
So let's start there.
Yeah.
You can't get upset if you're operating out of obedience because that's a consequence.
Mm.
So if I'm taking my armor off around the wrong man, why the wrong man is only being who he's supposed to be, the wrong man. So
I
how am
love
I
it.
going to get upset and feel some sort of way because the wrong man is playing his role, right?
Mm-hmm.
I got to go back to the Matrix, favorite movie. An agent is an agent. Why are you upset if the agent is trying to kill? The agent is a program that's we live in a matrix, so everybody's a program.
Ooh.
So
Ooh.
why are you upset with the jump off
That the
program?
program is doing its job.
Why are
Yeah.
you upset that the program is doing its job? That's what I want to know.
Mm.
That's what I want to know.
Wow.
So for me, and I have these conversations with men all the time. You choose her, and then you get upset when she plays you or when she uses it against you.
Mm.
You got to take responsibility, King.
I love it. I love it.
Okay, that's so.
I
That's what
love
I
it.
hear when I hear that story.
Yeah. So,
Because
yeah, go ahead.
mhm. No, go ahead, go ahead.
No, I was just saying. So, no, I think that makes total sense. There are men who are, I mean, most men. I think most of us choose the wrong person and don't take ownership of the choice. You
Mm,
know, because you can acknowledge or you can know that you made the wrong decision, but then taking ownership of it. I think a lot of men don't know how to take ownership. You know, we've been taught that we should take responsibility for everything that happens. Well,
mhm,
you can take responsibility for the choice. And then the choice, when it's correct, everything that follows that is going to be healthy if you make the right choice. But once you make
yes.
the wrong choice, let me ask you this though, and I'm sure you talk to men about this. Once you make a decision and you see
Okay.
red flags,
Mhm,
but you're invested in one way, maybe you've got a child with this woman, or you're sharing an apartment or a house, or whatever it is. How do you exit when you see some of those red flags? Like what are some
mhm.
ways you can get out of that situation?
Okay. So. let me say this. Let me preface really quickly. And the men that come to me, my life coaching clients, male and female, they know this about me. I don't sugarcoat anything. So I'm the person you come to when you want to change.
That's right.
I'm not the
Okay.
person to come to if you want to be coddled or if you. So I'm just giving you that disclaimer right now. I'm gonna tell you the truth because the truth will make you free, right? And the way
Mm-hmm.
God
Mm-hmm.
wired me is for me to just give it to you all the way 100, period, right? So I can
Yep.
only be me. Here's if you see if so you're saying if I invested right in something, but I see the red flag, then
Mm-hmm.
to me I hear a self-worth and a value thing because
Okay.
I am more valuable than what I invested in. I am,
Mm.
right? My peace is more valuable than the time that I spent with a man. So
Yeah.
there's no way I'm going to stay in something. I don't care how much I've invested financially or emotionally. If it's not it, I'm doing myself a disservice by staying in it and I'm not getting what God has for me, which is the best. So for me, it's a self worth thing. I love myself so much. So I think the first thing men and women have to do is fall in love with themselves. Because when you fall in love with yourself, there are certain things you're not going to allow. I don't care how much you've invested, you love you more. So for
That's
me,
a plug to go back and listen to episode 3 that we just dropped, talking
okay,
just
go back
about
and listen to episode
this
three.
thing. Yep.
So no
But
matter
it
how
yeah.
much you have invested, or the same way you can talk yourself into why you should stay, you can talk yourself into give yourself reasons why you need to leave.
Mm.
And when you desire the best, I know for me, the word of God says, I came to give you life and to give you life more abundantly. I believe that. So for me, if I know that that's the plan, then if I'm in something that's not what I'm supposed to be in, no matter how much time I've invested, that's not the perfect will. And I'm out because I love myself too
That's right.
much. I don't care how much I
That's
love
right.
you. I don't care how fine you are. I don't care about any of that. If you are not the divine selection for my life, I'm not doing it. But I think you have to get to a place in your life where you understand how valuable you are. Like I tell men, like the same way I'm valuable and my vagina is valuable, so are you. You don't.
Mm.
Why are you laying up? What are you
Oh
doing?
man.
You don't give. If I had a son, I would tell my son respectfully, you don't give the king's dick to whores. I'm not talking about like a
Oh,
slut or whatever. You understand what I'm saying when I say that? I'm not
I
calling
understand
a woman.
completely what you're
Do you
saying.
get it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I listen. I think we may
You
have to
know.
do a part 2, but I think I think that is one of the most detrimental things to men in this society is that young girls are taught that the longer they hold on to their virtue, the better they are. Young men are taught the faster you give it away, the more manly you are. And so even that dynamic gets us to a place where we are right now, where you've got men
Yeah.
who don't value themselves, um, and don't see their self worth. And what
Yeah.
you're saying, what I think you're saying, and correct me if
Hmm.
I'm wrong, is that if whatever you're trying to do in this life, if you don't start from a place of self worth,
Yes.
the rest of it's a moot point. Like you can't do anything else or accomplish anything worth doing if you don't start from a place of I am valuable.
Yes.
And I think one thing that we do a disservice of, specifically people who are believers,
Hmm.
is that we're so wrapped up in the idea of getting to heaven that we don't take care of here. Like God thought so much of us that He said, "I have an assignment for you. You're valuable enough to me that I trust you enough that you're going to fulfill this assignment on earth." And we get so wrapped up into getting to heaven and not to stop and think that if God wanted you in heaven, He'd have kept you in heaven. He sent you here.
Thank you.
Um, and so that self worth piece is
It's
key.
everything.
It's
You
key.
you have to fall in love with yourself.
Mm.
Because when you do that, there are it's certain women. I'm talking to men and women too. Like but
Yeah, yeah.
if I had a son and I was raising my son a certain way, right, and my son understood his worth and his value, there are some women that could never turn my son's head. because he
Mm.
knows who he is, right? That's the same thing with me. Like, I'm gonna give you an example really quickly, Justin. Like, I remember I was dating this guy in college. Crazy, loved him. He was so fine. He was beautiful, gorgeous, body, everything. I had fun with him, but he was a boyfriend. If I married him, I would have married a boyfriend, not a husband. Does
Ooh.
that make sense? Every
Wow.
man is not a husband. So when you, because I love myself so much, and as much as I loved him, I loved myself more, to the point where I was like, one day I'm going to get married, right? And I'm like, as much as I love him, as beautiful as he is, as much fun as I have with him, he's a boyfriend.
Hmm.
And I knew that. So, when you, as a man, you have to what is it that you desire? What do you
That's
feel
right.
like you are worth? If you feel like you're worth having a goddess, why are you even entertaining a woman who doesn't know who she is yet?
You know, I
I'm
told
just
I told I told a woman that I had this matrix of things that I'm looking for in a woman. Right there, some things are
Yeah,
weighted heavier than others, and some things are not weighted as heavy.
exactly.
And kind of the look she gave me was almost like, "How dare you have that kind of?" But it does two things. One, it obviously sets a standard for me for what I'm looking for, but it also holds me accountable because I know that whoever that woman is, I have to be the type of man that is going to be able to uh, attract her, keep her, maintain her, all those things. So if I want this laundry list of stuff, then I'm going to have to step up and set a standard for myself. So look, like I said, there's so many things that we could talk about. I do want to. We talked about self love, and I do believe that's the foundation.
Oh,
Can you give us maybe two or three things of tangible, practical ways that men and women can work on themselves and get to a place of self love?
okay. So, in no particular order, but one thing is, you work on yourself. You do self-care. You do personal development, right? You develop yourself. What does that look like? That looks like making sure that you are reading things that are feeding your spirit man or your spirit woman, making sure that you're like balanced, like you're not only listening to, I don't know, whoever, whatever rapper you like, but you got to listen to something that's going to feed a different part of you, right?
Yeah,
Because
the
it's
Wrapped in
shaping
Skin
who you are.
podcast. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
So do your
Yeah.
personal development. Read books that are going to fill you up and build you up. Listen to songs that are going to make you feel good and put you in a certain mood. Music is very powerful, right?
Hmm.
Hang out with people who can sharpen you, because all that shapes who you are. Another thing is, how do we fall in love with other people? We fall in love with them because we focus on all the beautiful things we love about them, right? When you're falling in love with somebody, you're just so focused on everything that you love about them, right? You have
Oh,
to do
that's
that with
good. Yeah,
yourself. Focus
that's
on what
good.
you love about yourself. Like, focus on
Yeah.
how amazing you are, your kind heart, your sense of community, whatever it is about you that's dope. Don't be afraid to own it. Like, don't dim your light. I would never, ever, 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 ever dim my light because somebody else is uncomfortable in my presence. That's crazy to me.
Mm.
So you have to really own who you are, which is, you are a child of God. God is
Yeah.
in you. So you have to remember how extraordinary you are. You have to remember who created you, right? Just like I'm my daddy's daughter, right? So because I'm my daddy's daughter, like I'm a Roberson, like of course I expect the best. Of course you have to adore me. Of course, right? It's just certain things that I expect because of what my father told me. So you being a child of God, who is even greater than my earthly father, who said to you who you are, I'll give you beauty for ashes. You have power to trample over scorpions and serpents. You're extraordinary.
Come on.
You're wealthy. You can call a thing that is not as though it were. Like, you gotta dig into the word of God or whatever you believe so you can know who you are. And
That's right.
then I would say maybe the last thing is just your choices.
Mm.
Make choices based on the outcome you desire.
That's
If you
right.
want if you want an apple tree, you got to plant apple seeds. If you're allergic to pears, but you plant, no, no, no. So whatever it is you desire, you got to plant those seeds. Just like you said, Justin, like you have to become what you desire.
That's
If
right.
you desire a goddess is going to challenge you.
Mm-hmm.
A goddess is going to say,
Oh yeah.
Justin, you told me that our goal this year was 5 million. That's what you
Mm.
that's what you said, right?
Come
So
on.
Justin, what are we
Yep.
doing?
That's
We're
right.
6 months. You feel me? So you
Yeah.
have to be ready for what it is you desire. Because if you drive a Lamborghini Urus, the maintenance is different than you driving a I don't know, a Toyota, whatever. I'm just saying a Kia. Nothing wrong with
Yep.
that. Y'all feel me? But right, if you
Yeah. No, I had a
desire
fr- I had a
certain,
fr- I had a friend of mine back in the day when like Hummers were a thing. Like he went to look at a Hummer and he asked the sales guy like how many miles a gallon does this Hummer get? And the sales dude looked at me and then looked at him and he said, "Look, if you got to ask that question, this is not the
then you
car
don't
for
need
you.
it.
It's not the car for you. Get something else. That's not
Get
a
something
question you
else.
ask." Look,
Yeah,
I like I said, I think hopefully at some point we'll be able to do a part two because I think there's so much here. And you said that you're not necessarily a pastor. You just gave a whole sermon right there.
I
Like
know I
so,
am. I know.
but
I'm
it's
an ordained
but it's in
pastor,
a, yeah,
but I
it's just
don't.
in a different space. It doesn't materialize like how traditionally
The world is my
we think
church.
of it. That's right.
Yeah,
I love it.
the world is my
Well,
church.
look, I think there's been so many jewels dropped on here, and everything that we do that I do on this podcast is to uplift people and to give people some sort of tool or inspiration or insight or whatever it is. So, and I think we've accomplished that. So I really appreciate you. I'll link everything that you said, everything you're doing, your social media. Obviously, if you're in Atlanta on the 25th of February, check her out.
Pull up,
I think you will not be
please.
disappointed. I'm going to reach out to some friends of mine who are there and tell them to pull up. So
Perfect.
I say this all the time because I truly believe it that, for this time while we're wrapped in the skin, we will be, if we choose it to be so, the very best of God. Jael, I thank you so much for taking the time out, talking to me, having this conversation. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be helped by this episode.
And thank you for doing this. Thank you for
Oh,
being
yeah.
such a beautiful vessel. Thank you for your obedience. I pray that God blesses you beyond
Yeah.
what you've ever dreamed or imagined, which is already a done deal because that's in the word. So I'm
That's
excited
right.
about your life. I'm excited about all the things that you're being obedient doing and the fruit that's going to come from your obedience. And it's probably time for you to get out of California because that's enough.
It seems like it. I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it. Look, be blessed. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace, peace.
That's a wrap for this episode, pun intended. I want to thank you for joining us. We hope that you learned something about yourself. Hopefully, you heard something that you had otherwise never thought of in that way. We welcome your comments. Please share, subscribe, talk about this with your friends. Our goal is to talk next time about something that you want to hear specifically. So comment, message us, email us. Let us know what you want to hear, what you want us to talk about, what you thought about this episode. And we'll catch you next time. That'll be good.